light agenda tonight. We have one item and then an executive session. So I'm just going to turn the floor over to you. We have a local business owner that wants to bring in concerns to the board.
Thank you. I want to thank the board, specifically Mr. Roddy and Mr. Brady, for allowing me to present here tonight. I understand it's not a regular meeting of the board. I won't take up too much of your time. The issue that I'm about to speak to you about, which I'd like the board to address on behalf of the village, has a private concern for me in terms of what happened most recently with my son. It's an ongoing matter that I still have with the particular parties that are involved. But I do feel that it's a consumer-related issue, and that is that there is currently no towing regulation in the village concerning the removal of vehicles, under what circumstances and at what cost from private property here in the village. And as village trustees, you may or may not be aware of the fact that my own research has indicated that the village some years ago had seen fit to regulate the cost of removal of a vehicle at the behest of the Village of Goshen Police Department, and specifically the amount of money that's involved in the ordinance pretty much is what ties into just about any place else that you should ever research as a reasonable rate. But for what it's worth, the village ordinance concerning the removal of a vehicle on a village street would be $100 for the hookup and tow, cannot bill for storage until 24 hours thereafter, and only that, assuming the business is actually open, then you can start billing at $65 a day. Now, why am I here? It's obviously I'm going the extra step on this, but I do think it's, given what I'm finding in the community, that seems to be an issue that more than one person's had, so I do think there's a public issue. But how did I come to pass as to this issue? Last Saturday night, my son, who is a customer at Chase Bank here in Goshen, off of Canal Street, went to do his banking business after he dropped off his younger brother at Limoncello's, where he works. And during the time that he was there, at approximately 4 o'clock, all of which I can establish, by bank receipts, etc., he had some difficulties in starting his car, and rather than drive it home, he decided he'd try to get in touch with me and have me come down and take a look at it. Within a 2-hour period of the time that he left the vehicle, we live here in Goshen, I should say, for what it's worth, albeit I'm not a village resident. My son's graduated Goshen High School, both of them, so I've been in the Goshen community for a long time. Within the 2-hour period after the car was sitting there, before my son could even come back with me that evening, Adamas Towing went in and tooled the car out of it, for whatever reasons I can't yet determine, because I keep getting different reasons. The long and short of which is that we didn't know where the vehicle was, and subsequently come to discover only through the grapevine and by investigating with the Goshen Police Department that the vehicle was actually parked in a secure lot up next to Goshen Collision, which is where Adamas apparently leased the space. So come Monday morning at 9:30 in the morning, I told my son to go over there, not even knowing why the vehicle was towed to begin with, and I was greeted and informed by Goshen Collision, who has nothing to do with this, that the bill to release the vehicle was $472, okay, plus taxes, I understand it, and that it had to be paid in cash or the car was not being released. The vehicle is still sitting at Adamas Towing, in large part because there's no way in hell, to give my language, that I'm paying $472 for a tow, never mind for the fact that my son totally disputes why the vehicle was removed. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here in the village, but it seems like everybody I talk to, as I talk to the community throughout the past week, everybody seems to know that there's something going on between Mr. Cartrini, meaning that location, and Kelly Jeans, and they're going in there and pulling out cars for no reason whatsoever. That's what I'm being told. The long and short is the car is still sitting there at this point. I'm actually going to go before Judge Leone tomorrow about this issue. For those of us who don't know, because I had no reason to know this, there's actually a state law. It's called the General Business Law of the State of New York, 399, subdivision little v, that actually regulates under what circumstance a car can be removed from even a private parking lot in New York State. And there has to be specific signage up there that indicates when you can remove a car and when you cannot. Based on that law, I should prevail, but we'll see. And I've actually talked to the state senator's office. I got the bill jacket for it. But the reason why I'm here, not to waste your time, is very simple. Most other municipalities that I've come to understand it, Rockland County and such, the city of New York, have decided to regulate private towing because of what they consider egregious conduct on behalf of the people who are suffering at the tow people. My own thinking is that everybody seems to be, and I want to share with you, because I've always liked Ray Quattrini on a personal level, that I actually had the occasion to go to his house last Thursday to speak to him and the Marine, and no disrespect to Ray, but since basically it's his man that's pulling cars out of that lot, wherever else he might be pulling cars out of the lot, Ray was basically laser there. Just throws up his hands, says it's not my problem. I tell him just to maintain the lot, and that's the way it's going to be.
Just to jump in 1 second,
right.
For purpose of discussion with what the village will talk about and right. Decide a determination on, we can't operate based on specifics, based on actions of an individual.
Right.
So if you could just try to keep it general in terms of
okay.
the way the law is, just
All right, fair enough. I mean, what I'm basically asking, because I think, based on my own conversations with other members of the community at large, is that it seems to me that some form of regulation should be here in the village so that nobody has to suffer this type of situation, for the good, the bad, and the different. Even if they wrongfully park, under what circumstances should somebody be held hostage over a bill that occurs some 2 days later and is now $500 almost? And as I just shared with you, if you guys want to take a look at some point, not through me obviously, but through the village attorney's office, you'll find many, many regulations from many communities that have, because New York State saw fit themselves to deal with the issue by way of predatory towing. That has to do with the signage. But the New York State does not address the issue concerning what can be charged or cannot be charged by a local tow person because somebody chooses to park in what they consider to be a public parking lot, and only to find out when they come out after a $26 restaurant bill, they actually have a $500 tip that they have to give too. And I thank you for hearing me out.
Do you know any other municipalities in Orange County that have similar?
I have not seen them. I'm not saying that they don't exist.
Right, okay.
I hate to, regretfully, I have not gone through every single municipal code. But for what it's worth, I did Google. And, the city of New York has a code. Rockland County regulates towing at large. I even called Consumer Affairs for what it's worth, just to see what they had thought about it. If I believe Consumer Affairs, they would have it be that there's no municipal regulation whatsoever. So it may be true, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But I do know that if you just search codes, you're going to find a lot of municipalities that have dealt with this issue. In fact, the progenitor of the New York State legislation had to do with the outrage that Chuck Fucillo was his name, who was the state senator, and also a local gentleman who was actually a village clerk or a town clerk. It was down on Long Island, I can't remember what district, CA Senate district. They were actually being outraged because people were complaining. I think in their case it had to do with a local CVS parking lot, and people would come out and be legitimately shopping, have a store receipt to prove that they're shopping, and they come out and find that their vehicle is gone. So the two gentlemen actually at that point decided to act on it, and that's how the legislation got involved. Up to Albany, the Empire State Towing Recovery Association, who I also spoke with, the legislative assistant there who actually drafted the legislation, was involved in it. They supported the bill, and to say the least, he was also surprised by the situation. But I'm not sure if I answered your question. I apologize.
No, you did. I mean, speaking only for myself, I don't know what anyone else feels, but I have no problem talking to the village attorney because he has other municipal clients, and he's reaching out to some of my colleagues and finding if there is a precedent for this in the area, what that is. I just need to do some research on my end just to get a better understanding of what's going on in the field around us.
Right. Okay.
I
think as a concluding remark, I think the reason why I'm here is this is not about punishment in the strictest sense. I think I'm going to give my recourse to the courts. Having said that, it's equally clear to me, let's put it this way, some of the responses I've had, I think people have been, in response to my situation, have been outraged. Certainly the people in the community that I spoke to have been outraged. And I know, having been, at one point, and therefore a brief period of time, mind you, because of personal issues, I was a member of the Goshen Chamber of Commerce. One of the issues that Goshen Village had always had was how to bring shoppers in, for instance, on Christmas time, how to bring money into the village, how to address the adequacy of parking here. And what's happening is that people are coming into the local village, and if I assume that I'm not being the only one singled out on this issue, or possibly being victimized by tactics and being paid for things, and is that the word that the village wants to have get out and around about parking in the village? That if you park somewhere and God forbid you're in the front of a wrong sign, or for that matter, the absence of a sign, you're going to get towed? I don't know, but that's up to you guys to decide.
Thank you. Just to be clear, because the media is here, he's referring to private lots, not village streets and village-owned properties.
Right. So it's private lots, right?
It's not.
Yeah, it wasn't Goshen PD that called for a truck.
No,
I just want to make sure I have all the facts straight.
Right. It was a private tower in a private lot, of which my son is even a customer. But the point of the matter is, even in the absence of being customer, because there's a number of establishments that are directly pertinent to that premises, and I even said to the tow operator at some point, I said, not for nothing. You acted on an assumption. Well, I don't know what assumption you're acting on to remove the vehicle. Subsequently, I got a letter that said the reason why he got towed is because supposedly my son's car was occupying 2 spaces. Well, we took all kinds of photographs. First of all, all the salt and sand on the street, you can't even see the lights to begin with. But having said that, every time I speak with him, there's another creative excuse. The point is this. What happens if one of my significant other happens to be a BHG, Better Homes and Gardens Rand's associate broker realtor? What happens if it had been as simple as the customer was there actually going out to see houses on a Sunday afternoon? Are they going to come back and they're going to find a car being towed and they'll be charged $500 for it? The gentleman had no information whatsoever as to what was going on. And all I know is that every time I talk to somebody about it, it's like everybody seems to know so much about this, and I don't politic because I was sharing with Gloria on the way in. So I have no way of knowing what's going on.
I discouraged him from it as well.
Exactly.
No, but when we talk, and for me, I hope this is an isolated incident, but the fact that people have it in their head that this might not be, I think, is just as vital that we clear that up, so.
Well, I will only say this, I don't have the facts, but I can tell you, every person that I have spoken to, and I mean that literally, whether it be somebody in a building someplace, a local merchant, whether it's somebody who, I don't want to get in trouble, that's an affiliation with the village, who does me a favor by saying, Scott, this is what I heard, everybody automatically knows what place we're talking about. So this is not an isolated incident. From what I understand, this is going on all the time. And I even went into the establishment directly appurtenant, which had nothing to do with it, but just to ask them what's going on. And their response was, we just don't get involved with that. And even that, quite frankly, soured me, because for what it's worth, if you know that your customers are going to possibly be victimized by parking outside in a lot that's not there, why would at a minimum you don't have a sign in your own establishment saying, don't park there? So in other words, you come in, you eat your dinner, and you're going to get towed in the process of it? It makes no sense to me.
Well, maybe they don't have it now, but I can tell you when they opened, they had signs all over the place.
I haven't seen it, and it may well still be there, but it seems to me that that's part of what I was hearing in many cases going on.
I think your points are well made.
All right, thank you.
We will get to work on it.
All right, thank you. I understand there's no promises, and it may not be relevant to you all, but I
Just
appreciate the
another just point of interest.
Yes.
You're appearing in front of Judge Sion, what, in the town court?
Yes, tomorrow at 12 o'clock.
Why, because the vehicle is in the town, is that why it's there?
No, it's a private matter. I'm actually taking the tow operator, as if I don't have better things to do. But I'm taking the tow operator as well as the owner to court because the fact alone that they violated on the face of the statute what they can do in order to pull the car out of there, which requires specific signage that has to be up where you cannot tow a car. That means in essence they've stolen the car. They've taken the car without authority and entitled to damages.
Let's separate between the individual situation and the full policy. But we thank you for coming in.
Thank you all for hearing me out. I appreciate it all.
Wish you well.
Have a good night. Nice seeing you.
Thank you very much.
And I just have one item for executive session. What was the reason that we gave for executive session? What's the name of it? Acquisition? Land acquisition?
Yeah, or
Okay.
sale.
Okay. So executive session to discuss potential land acquisition or sale. But before that, does any board member have anything they wanted to bring up tonight? Okay. All right, then I'll ask for a motion to move into executive session to do no business when we return.
First.
So second? Second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.